Most people think astronauts are superhuman, geniuses in floating laboratories, perfect minds, perfect focus. Wrong. Astronauts forget things. They lose focus, they misread checklists, and sometimes their brains start breaking down. Not because they're stupid, because space slowly attacks the human brain. No gravity, constant isolation, radiation, sleep disruption. After weeks in orbit, astronauts experience something NASA psychologists call cognitive degradation, slower reactions, memory glitches, decision fatigue. The brain literally begins to malfunction, which raises a terrifying question. If astronauts know their brains will eventually slip, how do they avoid deadly mistakes? Because in orbit, one wrong decision doesn't mean embarrassment. It means catastrophe, fire, depressurization, loss of the entire crew. So astronauts developed a mental survival system. 3 rules. Rules designed for the moment when your brain stops working properly. I'm about to show you exactly what they are. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why astronauts can still perform flawlessly, even when their minds start failing. Chapter 1. The Checklist Brain. Most people trust their memory. Astronauts don't, because memory is fragile. Psychologist George Miller discovered something brutal about the human brain. Working memory can only hold about 7 items at once. 7. That's it. Now imagine operating a spacecraft. Hundreds of switches, dozens of procedures, life support systems, navigation systems, thermal controls. One mistake can kill everyone. You cannot rely on memory. So astronauts cheat. They outsource thinking. Checklists, endless checklists. Every task has a checklist. Powering a system, repairing a panel, docking with a spacecraft, even emergency procedures. To outsiders, this looks ridiculous. Why would the most intelligent humans on Earth need step-by-step instructions? Because astronauts understand something most professionals ignore. The brain lies. It tells you you're sure when you're not. The aviation industry proved this decades ago. After several deadly crashes in the 1930s, engineers discovered something shocking. The planes weren't failing. The pilots were. Too many steps, too much complexity. Even expert pilots forgot critical actions. So they introduced the first aviation checklist. Crashes dropped dramatically. Astronauts adopted the same system. They never rely on memory. They read, then act, then confirm, then log the action. Sometimes another astronaut verifies it. It sounds obsessive, but here's the thing. When your brain starts degrading in space, checklists become your second brain. But here's the problem though. Checklists only work if your brain still understands the situation. And in space, the brain can start narrowing its thinking. Dangerously. Chapter 2. Cognitive tunneling. When humans get stressed or fatigued, the brain does something strange. It shrinks its field of attention. Psychologists call this cognitive tunneling. Instead of seeing multiple possibilities, you lock onto one explanation. Everything else disappears. NASA studied this during the early space program. They discovered something alarming. Under stress, astronauts became more likely to misinterpret instrument data. Not because the data was wrong, because the brain filtered out conflicting information. Imagine a warning light blinking. It could mean pressure drop, sensor failure, electrical glitch, but a fatigued brain may instantly decide pressure leak and ignore everything else. This is how disasters happen. Not through stupidity, through mental narrowing. The brain becomes convinced it understands the situation, even when it's wrong. So astronauts use a strange trick. They speak their thinking out loud, constantly. Mission Control calls this verbal cross-checking. Instead of silently interpreting data, astronauts narrate their reasoning. I'm seeing pressure fluctuations in tank 2. Another astronaut replies, confirming fluctuation. Could be thermal expansion? Now 2 brains analyze the problem. Not one. Psychologists call this distributed cognition. The thinking spreads across multiple people, which widens the mental field again. The brain stops tunneling. This simple practice prevents countless mistakes, because when one brain narrows, another brain reopens the view. But here's the thing though. Even teamwork can't stop another problem astronauts face. Their brains start slowing down, literally. Chapter 3, Sleep Destruction in Orbit. You think you're tired after a bad night of sleep. Astronauts get something worse, broken sleep. The International Space Station experiences 16 sunrises every day. Every 90 minutes the sun appears again. The human circadian rhythm evolved for one sunrise, not 16. This chaos confuses the brain's internal clock. Melatonin production drops. Sleep cycles fragment. Astronauts wake up constantly. And sleep deprivation is not just annoying, it's neurologically devastating. Studies from the University of Pennsylvania show that 18 hours without sleep produces cognitive impairment similar to alcohol intoxication. You are basically drunk. Now imagine operating a spacecraft while your brain feels drunk. This is why NASA treats sleep like a mission-critical system. Astronauts follow strict sleep protocols. Blackout sleeping pods, temperature regulation, scheduled light exposure, sometimes melatonin supplements. Because sleep is not rest. Sleep is brain maintenance. During sleep, the brain performs something called memory consolidation. Information moves from temporary storage to long-term memory. Neural waste products are cleared. Connections reorganize. Without sleep, the brain becomes clogged. Slow, confused. Astronauts know this. So protecting sleep is not optional. It's survival. But here's the problem, though. Even with sleep, the brain still struggles with something else in space: isolation. Chapter 4. The Psychological Reset System. Space is quiet, too quiet. No wind, no weather. No crowds, just machinery humming. Day after day, month after month, humans evolved in complex environments, changing landscapes, conversations, movement. When those disappear, the brain begins drifting. Mood drops. Attention weakens. Motivation fades. Psychologists studying Antarctic researchers discovered something similar. They called it winter over syndrome. After months of isolation, cognition declines. Irritability rises. Focus disappears. Astronauts experience the same effect. So NASA built the psychological reset system, simple rituals designed to refresh the brain. The first tool is Earth viewing. Astronauts spend time staring out the station windows, watching continents drift by, storm systems forming, ocean currents swirling. At first glance, this looks like daydreaming. It's not. Psychologists discovered that viewing Earth triggers something called the overview effect, a cognitive shift where the brain regains perspective. Stress drops, attention resets, mental clarity returns. The second tool is exercise. Astronauts exercise 2 hours every day, not for fitness, for brain stability. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, boosts dopamine and serotonin, improves executive function. Without exercise, cognitive decline accelerates. The third tool is something surprising: play. Astronauts bring guitars, movies, games, small hobbies, because the brain cannot operate in constant mission mode. It needs psychological breathing room. Think of it like resetting a computer. Without occasional resets, systems crash. But here's the thing, though. Even with resets, astronauts still face a deeper threat: mental overload. Chapter 5. Decision fatigue. The human brain is terrible at making too many decisions. Psychologist Roy Baumeister studied this phenomenon. He called it decision fatigue. Every decision drains mental energy. After enough decisions, the brain starts failing. Judgment drops, impulse control weakens, errors multiply. Now imagine astronauts making hundreds of decisions every day. Which system to check first? Which diagnostic to run? Which procedure to prioritize? That cognitive load would destroy performance. So astronauts remove decisions wherever possible. They use rigid routines: wake time, exercise time, work blocks, meal times, communication windows, everything scheduled. This structure eliminates unnecessary thinking, which preserves mental energy for critical moments. Elite performers use the same trick. Steve Jobs wore the same outfit daily. Barack Obama limited wardrobe choices. Why? Less decision fatigue. More mental capacity for important problems. Astronauts apply this principle to their entire day. Routine protects the brain. But here's the final thing astronauts understand: the most important rule of all. Chapter 6. Never trust a confident brain. When the brain begins degrading, something dangerous happens. Confidence increases, not decreases. Psychologists call this the Dunning-Kruger effect. When people know less, they become more certain, which is terrifying in space. A tired astronaut may feel absolutely sure about a diagnosis, even if it's wrong. So NASA trains astronauts to distrust certainty. They double-check, triple-check, question assumptions, and most importantly, they slow down. Speed is the enemy of accuracy in complex systems. That's why astronauts follow the principle: slow is smooth. Smooth is fast, move carefully. Confirm every step. Accuracy beats speed, always. But here's the thing, though. You might never go to space, but your brain faces the same problems: fatigue, distraction, cognitive overload, decision fatigue, isolation. Your mind breaks down too, just in quieter ways, which means the astronaut system works on Earth as well. Use checklists, protect sleep, limit decisions, reset your brain with breaks, think out loud with others, distrust overconfidence. The smartest humans on Earth don't rely on mental strength. They rely on systems, because systems keep working, even when the brain doesn't. And if you think astronauts have extreme mental discipline, wait until you see the system surgeons use to memorize thousands of procedures without forgetting. It's almost unfair. Watch that video next.